And how's everybody doing today? We all having fun at the show? Good. I will have samples, just let you know, at the end here for you. I have purchased the ingredients for my red beans and rice from Ingles. So this isn't anything that is, special ingredients that you can't get right from your regular grocery store, just let you know. But first off, give you a little bit of information about myself. I've been doing Ingles tables on the Ingles website, ingles-markets.com. Been doing Ingles tables for about a year and a half now. I'm the resident chef on Channel 13, WLOS, out of Asheville. So you can see me cooking on there every once in a while on Sunday mornings and Monday mid-afternoon, late evenings, and or during the week, and I'm on there all the time. But that's what makes it fun. I own a restaurant and catering shop in Marion, North Carolina. But the thing that I'm known for, my calling card is, does anybody here like cheesecake? Show of hands. Anybody like cheesecake? I make 135 flavors of cheesecake from scratch out of my restaurant. And we have a mail order business that we ship them all over the country also. So we're really known for the cheesecakes. A lot of people think I'm a little crazy, but I'm always asked in the restaurant during the day, Bruce, what's your favorite flavor of cheesecake? And very simple. I grew up a PB&J kid. I am still a PB&J kid. My favorite cheesecake that I make is a peanut butter and jelly cheesecake. And it's a solid peanut butter cheesecake with a jar of strawberry preserves rippled through it on a vanilla wafer crust, and you just can't beat it. So a piece of that about 7 o'clock in the morning for breakfast with a cup of coffee, and I am wired for the day. You bet, that's all I need. So we're gonna get started on red beans and rice. Simple ingredients. I start off with a little bit of bacon grease in the bottom of my pot. If you don't want to use bacon grease, you don't have any saved at home, you can use olive oil, a little bit of butter, whatever you like, some kind of fat. And I am starting off with, you can use kielbasa. I love kielbasa. I come from Cleveland, Ohio. Southwest side of Cleveland is Parma, Ohio. It's one of the kielbasa capitals of the nation, I swear. Big Polish neighborhood in there. But usually I will use kielbasa. I like to slice mine quite thin and then cut them into half wheels. But today also, for true red beans and rice, if you can, I'm using andouille sausage. It's a highly smoked Cajun pork sausage. Now I've got the pan hot. I'm just gonna put the sausage in first. We're gonna stir it around. The sausage is basically smoked and pre-cooked, but it will give off some grease while it is cooking. Now, I've had a lot of people say, Bruce, is it spicy? Bruce, is it hot? Is it spicy hot? Can I feed this to my family? I tell people that you can always control the amount of heat in your dishes, like red beans and rice, by what kind of peppers you use, what kind of sausage you use, and what kind of seasonings you use. This andouille sausage is basically smoked, but has very little heat spices in it. So that's a good one to start off with, but it's a good basic smoked sausage. Kielbasa, if you use kielbasa, is never really heat spicy, but has more garlic in it than this. Kielbasa is basically a smoked sausage with extra garlic in it. So we're getting a little bit of color on the sausage. Get spread around to the bottom of the pot. To this, I'm going to add 2 cups of finely minced onions, a cup of diced celery, and a cup of my favorite pepper. And you're going to hear the name, you're going to think, oh, whoa, Bruce, poblano peppers. Now, anything, in my opinion, that sounds like it has a Hispanic background for peppers, a lot of people will stay away from, simply do they think that it's going to be too spicy, too hot. A poblano pepper is 1 step above a bell pepper. And I'll be honest with you, I'll give you a little secret. when you go to Mexican restaurants, a lot of times they will use poblano peppers to flavor a lot of their dishes because it has 10 times the amount of flavor as a bell pepper, a touch more heat, not much. But to be honest with you, when you go to the grocery store, for the amount of flavor and amount of meat out of the pepper that you get out of it once you dice it up, it's about half the price of a bell pepper. So I really like poblano peppers in almost everything I do, simply to the fact that I think you get more bang for your buck out of a poblano. Getting cooked through. Now, I have 2 cloves of garlic here, but I haven't added them to the dish yet. Any ideas why? Who has an idea? It'll burn, exactly. Very good, ma'am. Thank you. You get a cigar. Hope you're a smoker, but no. Garlic, if you put the garlic in the pot or in the pan too early, it burns much quicker than anything else in the pot. So I tend to hold off my garlic. Now I have minced my garlic, and there's a little lesson I want to give you guys on garlic. If I threw a whole clove of garlic, just a whole clove peeled, into the pot, it would give off a little bit of flavor in the saute, but not a lot. If I cut it into slices, it would give off a little bit more. The more surface area you expose of the garlic clove to the dish, the stronger it will be. It has nothing to do with the size of the clove, or it has nothing to do with the age, really. It's how finely minced you make your garlic. If you have a garlic press and you actually press the garlic, where it's almost like a puree, that is when you're going to get the most flavor out of your garlic. But leaving it just minced up like this will give you a little bit less flavor. If you just throw the whole one in or slice it, it'll give you even less. So keep that in mind for the future, because if you're doing a dish that calls for a couple cloves of garlic, it's the way that you prepare your garlic that's going to determine how much flavor you get out of it. Now, I'm going to want to put in the garlic, because next I'm going to add in our red beans. Now these are not kidney beans. You can find these in the store. They are small red beans. I do not drain them. I put them right with the juice. Each of these cans is about 1.5 cups of beans. That's the brand name. And I use about 6 cups worth. Now this will make enough for it. This is, dinner and then probably leftovers the next day. But to be honest with you, this dish is one of those ones that's better the second day even. So I got all 6 cups of beans in there. We're going to start stirring through so that the garlic gets distributed and the beans too. I'm going to put a lid on it and let that simmer for a few minutes while we talk. I grew up in northern Ohio with a family that we did an awful lot of potatoes and maybe some pasta for dinner, but I didn't have rice a lot when I was growing up. I love rice now for dishes like gumbos, red beans and rice, things like that. But I've gotten away. My wife, when, God love Barbara Jean's soul, when she was growing up, all she had ever had was minute rice. Now, I understand that there is something to be said for being able to save time by making rice and being able to have it ready and prepared and done in 3 minutes. That's fine. I personally don't like it though. If you can, long cooking rice, the easiest thing to do, I tell people all the time, no matter what size, what quantities of rice and water you use. I always use 2 parts water to 1 part rice, so 4 cups of water, 2 cups of dry rice. Bring the water up to a boil, put the rice in. As soon as it comes up to a boil, stir it around, put a lid on it, and reduce the heat to low. But the thing with rice, I've had so many people say, how many minutes does it take? It kind of depends on atmosphere. It depends on, water boils at different temperatures according to elevation. I have a friend that lives just outside of Tuxedo, North Carolina. He said his water boils at 209 degrees instead of 212. So it's just those few degrees will make a difference. But my point with the rice is that if once it starts cooking, leave the lid on for at least 15 minutes. Once you take the lid off to look, if there are little, I call fish eyes, if there are little bubbles with holes, it almost looks like maybe where a sand crab is in the sand breathing, and a wave will come up, and once it goes, the wave recedes, it goes back out, you'll see little bubbles coming up in the sand. If you see those kind of bubbles and little tunnels and holes in the top of your rice, the rice is cooked. Those fish eyes are just the extra moisture getting pulled out of it. Now we're going to talk herbs. I'm one of these people that I believe that we are cooking with too much salt in our society today. I tend to use very, very little salt. I would rather salt my food personally myself rather than putting the salt in the beginning and let it get cooked away and hidden. That's extra sodium and stuff that we really don't need. So, to the pot, I'm going to add parsley, a little bit of basil, oregano. I know it almost sounds Italian, but optional. You don't have to put it in, but I'm putting in just a little cayenne pepper, maybe a teaspoon. Chili powder. I really like chili powder. That's one of my favorites. I will use a touch of salt, maybe a teaspoon of salt for the whole pot. And bay leaves. Now, I love bay leaves. They will impart great flavor. Everything will taste better because of the bay leaves. But please make sure that when you go to serve it to your guests or your family, do not let them eat a bay leaf. They can choke very easily. If you need to, pull them out, sort through your beans before you serve it, and see if you can pull the bay leaves out just before you serve it. They will have done their job of flavoring just in the cooking like this. Now we're going to add in tomatoes. Petite diced canned tomatoes. Great products. I absolutely love using them in a lot of different things. I'll use them sometimes in my quiche at the restaurant if I don't have a whole lot of fresh tomatoes, things like that. With the juice in them, they work well. That's something that is inexpensive, and you don't have to worry about, well, are tomatoes in season? Because I'll tell you right now, would any of you eat a tomato sandwich that you got a tomato from a farmer's market right now? I wouldn't. They're not fresh. I'm kind of one of those people that I like farm fresh tomatoes once they're vine ripened, where you can cut it thick and it tastes like a tomato. Am I right? Can I get an amen? Come on. I love tomato sandwiches. But the tomatoes we got in the markets today, a lot of times have no flavor. And there's no real good way to tell which ones do and which ones don't. They can be perfectly bright, deep red, but they're lacking in flavor because of the time of year. So this is the time of year that I will buy canned tomatoes for a dish like this. Once we get them stirred in, if you'd like, you can always use more tomatoes. I like the petite diced also though, because it's more the size of the bean. You don't want a big hunk and chunk of tomato with a little bean right next to it. So I like the petite diced tomatoes in this. Lid and simmer again. While this is all going on, you can have rice cooking in another pot right off on the side. You can have the rice already done where you can just, I actually will whenever I make rice, make large amounts of rice for Barbara Jean and I, even though it's just the two of us, and then warm it up because rice warms up beautifully. So you can make it ahead of time, stick it in a covered bowl in the fridge and warm it up in the microwave. I always drizzle a little water on it just to moisten it, refreshen it. If you like your beans a little bit more soupy, if you like a little bit more brothy consistency, you can always add chicken stock. You buy boxes of chicken stock that are stored in the cabinet until you open it and then store it in the fridge. You can put chicken stock in, you can put vegetable stock, you can put straight water, whatever you like. I'm thinking that with the juice from the tomatoes and from the beans, this batch is looking pretty good, just the way it is. If you turn the heat down, low to medium low, put a lid on it, let it simmer. If you let it, the longer you let it simmer, the more the vegetables will flavor all of it. You could take it out, start putting it over the rice and eating it right now. But if you let it simmer just a little bit, it develops a little bit more background flavor, especially with the herbs, especially with the bay leaf. And like I said, now I like mine on rice. I'll put a little bit of rice in a bowl, put the beans over top, have a cake of cornbread sitting on the side, ready to go, maybe some diced up fresh onions, or Barbara Jean likes chow chow on hers. Every once in a while, if we make some homemade chow chow, we'll throw that on there too. But red beans and rice is one of those dinners that, in my opinion, it goes a long way. It's loaded with protein. You notice, you can keep the sodium down. I actually bought petite diced tomatoes with no salt added. So you can control a lot of stuff. They can be extremely healthy for you and a great staple. So that's what we're going to do. I've got cups that we're going to fill some up so that everybody can have some red beans and rice and taste it. So there we go. We've got some ready for everybody to taste and get onto. Please go to ingles-markets.com, download the recipe, watch the video on TV. If you have any questions as to the order or anything else that I did with it. I hope you enjoy this recipe. I hope you come by Bruce's Fabulous Foods and see me sometime. I hope you continue to support Ingles. Thank you very much. Y'all have a great day.